December 2019, a dusty archive in Moscow revealed documents that make CIA's worst nightmares look like children's games. What American intelligence agencies discovered will shock you. While we were worried about Soviet nuclear weapons, Stalin was creating something far worse. Biological weapons so deadly that even his own scientists refused to work on them. And the terrifying part, some of these programs never actually ended. Today, for the first time ever, we are revealing what Russia kept hidden for 80 years. Picture this, it's 1985. President Reagan is briefed on Soviet military capabilities. Nuclear missiles, we knew about those. Tank divisions, tracked. Air Force monitored. But there is a file mark, eyes only, that makes seasoned CIA operatives sick to their stomachs. The file contained just one word, Biopreparat. For decades, American intelligence knew the Soviets were developing biological weapons, but they had no idea about the scale. We thought they had a few labs. We were wrong. They had entire shadow nation, 40,000 scientists working in complete secrecy across 52 facilities. And here's what kept American officials awake at night. We couldn't figure out what they were actually creating. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. In 1989, a Soviet scientist named Vladimir Pasechnik walked into the British embassy in Paris and said 5 words that changed everything. I want to defect now. Pasechnik wasn't just any scientist. He was the director of the Institute of Ultra-Pure Biochemical Preparations, one of the Soviet Union's most classified biological weapons facilities. What he revealed made American and British intelligence realize they'd been preparing for wrong war. The Soviet wasn't just making anthrax and plague, diseases we knew about. They were engineering entire new pathogens, diseases that had never existed in nature, viruses that could bypass every vaccine ever created, bacteria that could survive any antibiotic known to science. But here's the part that terrified Western intelligence. They were testing these weapons on their own people. The moment Pasechnik started talking, the Pentagon went into crisis mode. Why? Because American military bases worldwide were completely unprepared for what Soviet had created. General Colin Powell, the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, was briefed on Soviet capabilities in 1990. After the meeting, he reportedly said, "We've been planning to fight World War II while they've been preparing for war from science fiction." The Soviet had weaponized disease that could spread through air-conditioned systems. They'd create anthrax that could survive in frozen conditions for decades, perfect for smuggling into American cities. Most terrifying of all, they'd engineer in plague bacteria that was completely resistant to antibiotics. And here's what American officials discovered that changed everything. The Soviet had already produced enough biological weapons to kill every person on Earth 3 times over. Declassified documents from 2019 revealed the true scope of Soviet biological weapons programs. They had code names that sounds like something from a horror movie. Project Enzyme, creating bacteria that could eat through military equipment while soldiers void. Project Hunter, developing viruses that would only affect specific ethnic groups. Yes, they were creating racist diseases. Project Invisible, engineering pathogens that would remain dormant in victims for months, then activate simultaneously across the entire country. But the most disturbing program was called Project Red Death. The goal, create a biological weapon that would turn a person's own immune system against him. Sound familiar? That's because research began in 1970s, decade before anyone heard of HIV or autoimmune diseases. American intelligence estimates that Project Red Death alone consumes more resources than the entire Manhattan Project, and the rest subject Soviet soldiers, prisoners, and civilians who had no idea what was being done to them. In 2003, Russian journalists tracked down survivors of the Soviet biological weapons testing. What they found was horrifying. Mikhail Kozlov, a former Red Army sergeant, was told he was volunteering for cold weather training in 1978. Instead, he was exposed to weaponized tularemia at the facility of Siberia. Kozlov survived, but 30 other soldiers in his group did not. They told us we were serving our country, Kozlov said in a rare interview. We didn't know we were being murdered by our own government. Dr. Elena Petrov, a former Soviet scientist who worked in Project Hunter, reveals details that made even 100 American intelligence officers sick. We were ordered to create diseases that would kill efficiently and spread quickly. The goal was to make biological weapons that were cheaper and more effective than nuclear bombs. But here's what shocked American officials most. Dr. Petrov reveals that Soviet scientists had successfully created Airborne Ebola, a version of deadly virus that could spread like common cold. When American officials learned about Airborne Ebola in 1990, the response was immediate and classified. The CDC quietly began developing countermeasures for biological weapons that officially didn't exist. American military bases worldwide received mysterious shipments of experimental vaccines. But the real panic started when intelligence agencies realized something terrifying. Many Soviet biological weapons scientists had disappeared after the USSR collapsed in 1991. Where did they go? Some joined the American biological defense programs. Others were recruited by countries like North Korea, Iran, and Syria. But many simply vanished, along with samples of their deadly creations. The FBI Biological Weapons Intelligence Unit, a department so secret most FBI agents don't know it exists, spent the 1990s tracking missing Soviet scientists. What they discovered kept them awake at night. Several scientists had been approached by terrorist organizations offering millions of dollars for biological weapon recipes. In 1995, the Japanese called Aum Shinrikyo, the same group that attacked Tokyo's subway with sarin gas, sent representatives to Russia taking biological weapons. They were unsuccessful, but American intelligence realized that biological terrorism was no longer theoretical. Here's what American intelligence agencies don't want you to know. Many Soviet biological weapons programs never actually ended. They were simply transferred to civilian facilities and continued under different names. In 2018, the Pentagon identified 15 Russian facilities that appear to be conducting biological weapons research. Some are located dangerously close to American military bases in Europe. Others are hidden in plain sight, disguised as legitimate pharmaceutical companies. Scientists, many former Soviet biological weapons researchers, are still alive and working. American intelligence tracks them like nuclear materials, too dangerous to lose sight of, too valuable to eliminate. The most chilling revelations came in 2020 when a former Russian scientist revealed that Moscow had successfully weaponized diseases that don't exist in nature, engineered pathogens that could bypass every medical defense system in Earth. So here's the question that keeps American defense officials awake at night. If the Soviets created biological weapons this advanced in 1980s using primitive technology, what are modern adversaries capable of today? The answer is classified, but leaked Pentagon documents suggest that biological weapons development has accelerated dramatically in the past decade, not just in Russia, but in China, North Korea, and Iran. American intelligence believes that the next major war won't be fought with tanks or missiles. It will be fought with weapons so small you can't see them, but so deadly they make nuclear bombs look humane. The Soviet biological weapons program officially ended in 1992, but declassified documents revealing something terrifying. The knowledge didn't disappear, evolved, and somewhere in the world today, in laboratories hidden from public view, scientists are creating the next generation of biological weapons. The question isn't if they'll be used, the question is when and whether we'll be ready. If this declassified information shocked you, wait until you see what we've uncovered about Unit 731.